SEBI disclosure norms, and especially for listed companies, very stringent norms. How easy are they to, how difficult it will be to implement them? Will the cost of now these disclosure, will this have an impact on the company? Disclosure of material information of board meetings to be reported in next 30 minutes. The SEBI is really trying to trying to just ensure that there is no special access of information. Information should be available, it should be seamless, and it will be available to all at the same time. Shriram Subramanian joins us, founder and managing director with InGovern. Sandeep Parekh also joins us now, financial sector advisors. Shriram, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The SEBI disclosure norms for listed companies, they have to compulsory clarify on all the rumors, not necessary when exchanges are asking you. It could be a social media rumor, it could be a media rumor. How difficult do you think it will be for companies to implement this in totality?
Good morning. Yes, it is going to be onerous on companies, especially the smaller companies, because they would need to have some dedicated person scanning, especially if it extends to non-mainstream media, which is social media. And that too, social media, there are random comments by somebody, random rumors which are started and which could be completely fake news, etc. So that's where I think it puts the burden on companies to have a dedicated person. But the materiality discussion which you discussed on this one, that should be fine, I would think, because that is at least something which is within the control of the company, and to disclose to the stock exchange within 30 minutes, just bullet point wise, should not be a problem, I would think.
Sandeep, while the intent may be absolutely right, but do you think the applicability of what SEBI wants from listed players and the top 100 of those, that's going to be problematic?
Yes, I think it will be a problem because, just because something is material, you don't need to disclose it. And I'll give you a simple example. For instance, company A, which is a listed company, is seeking to acquire company B, which is, let's say, also listed. If you force that company, in this example, let's say there's a rumor and they have to quash it. If you force that company to disclose the ongoing, negotiation or, whatever is going on with respect to the acquisition, the price of the target company would go up 20% and the deal would fall. So it will, transparency we think is always kind of a generic good and you can never argue against it. But the fact is there's a lot more nuance involved with transparency. So, when somebody's, if a rumor comes out about negotiation and you force the company to kind of come out with a statement, they can either say yes or no. They can say negotiations are going on, in which case, the deal will fall through. And if they deny it, it becomes a lie. It becomes a misrepresentation. So, the company gets stuck between doing what is right for investors and doing what is right regulatorily. So I think there are second order impacts which need to be considered. I think the restriction to kind of mainstream media won't make it very costly otherwise. But I think that's kind of my...
How does one figure out that this is a clarification which really needs to be clarified or not? There are WhatsApp groups, there are social media influencers, there is mainstream media, there are national channels like ET Now. What is the judgment and criteria of mainstream? What is not relevant? What is a rumor? And what is simple social media, mongering?
No, so I think in the consultation paper they talked about this, and I think they've restricted it to mainstream media, which would probably mean, your channel, Economic Times and, the leading newspapers and electronic media. It won't include, WhatsApp groups and Twitter and stuff like that. So I think to the extent it imposes a practical cost, it may not be so painful. But I think the cost is really in terms of what I mentioned of the second order effects.
So, Sandeep, isn't that fair practice already at play? If there is a news in the mainstream media, the exchanges have historically always written back to the company asking for clarification, and within 24 hours, you normally see a reasonable amount of response. So, how is this different?
No, so this is, I'll tell you why this is different. Because when a comment, when a phone call comes from an exchange asking about this, a company which is negotiating to acquire company B can say no comment. Today, that's not an option, right? So that's the kind of major change really. So the no comment era has probably ended. I hope they've left. I hope SEBI's left the window open for something like that. But in any kind of negotiation of any kind of deal, M&A, etc., you need to keep confidentiality for months altogether. 6 months, a year, and as soon as you disclose it, the deal falls through. This is almost the nature of the deal. So I think the actual direct cost is very, very limited, according to me. If you just had to track like 7-8 mainstream medias, or maybe even including electronic media, another dozen or so, it's quite a limited impact.
Okay. Shriram, let's get a closing comment from you as well. This entire definition of how will this be different? The mainstream media, if there is a buzz, rumor or a story in a mainstream media, as a hygiene practice, exchanges normally write to the company where more than often they've often responded.
That's what. At least there was a company was reacting to a query by the stock exchange. But in going forward, probably it is the judgment of the company, and the dilemma which the company will have is to what to consider it serious or non-serious, etc. And the issue that Sandeep pointed out is also relevant, right? And especially after board meetings, etc., of course, that is that at least it knows. But what comes in media as a rumor, it is tough to make out as to how the company will respond.
Right. Okay, Shriram, Sandeep, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining in today with that quick clarification. Let's see how stringent the implementation of what SEBI wants from the listed fraternity gets out to be.